Oh, let's go. Welcome to... What's up, guys? Welcome to the Derek O'Shea Show. J.K. Rowling is totally best. No fly zones. What are those? One person has no idea, but is advocating for them. Biolabs? And so much more. Let's get into it on the Derek O'Shea Show. Welcome to the revolution.
Come on, man.
Hey guys, what's up? Oh, come on, man. What's up, guys? Hope you guys are having a fantastic Wednesday. It's Wednesday. Whoa. It's the middle of the week. What are you going to do? As we see what's going on in the news, first, before I get into some of these main stories I want to talk about, I just want to double check and see if live. Get in the chat. We are currently live on Rumble, YouTube's, Twitter's, Facebook's, and Twitch. So hard to keep up with my own self sometimes. I want to see what's going on in the news first before I have go through some of the stories that I have queued up to talk about today. So much happened today. So many craziness, including
Russians should be proud
this.
of what their soldiers are doing in Ukraine. But where's the honor in bombing a children's and maternity hospital in a city that's surrounded? No patients were reported killed in this attack, but pregnant women were among those who were helped out of the building. Ukraine called it a war crime and says children are still trapped.
I cannot realize why it's necessary for Russian troops to destroy hospital.
Russia denied it was responsible.
Absolutely devastating about the hospital. I think people are just forgetting how much of hell war truly is. It's not a video game. It's not like you only attack the military bases. Hell happens. People die that shouldn't be dying. Especially when you have careless crap like this.
The Russian forces have been cutting off Mariupol for days. The city has run out of basic supplies. We don't have electricity. We don't have anything to eat. We don't have medicine. We have nothing. This
Get in the chat, guys. Let me know how you're doing.
woman says. At an urgent care hospital in Kiev, medical officials accused Russia of deliberately targeting civilians across the country. In every room, we saw civilians. This man having a bullet removed from his leg. In an adjacent room, a man with a brain injury. He'd been under his bombed home for 2 days before being dug out.
How are you in the medical community handling this war?
There is a kind of duty. We have to because we are doctors.
This family was escaping a suburb north of Kiev.
Mr. Tubbs.
After Russian troops.
Good, man. That's awesome. You catch up on any of the news today? I'm going to go through some of the stuff. I got some stuff queued up, but I'm just seeing what's live right now and what they're talking about.
Bombed their house. The family hit the road and was quickly stopped by Russian soldiers who waved them on. But as soon as their car started moving, another group of Russian troops sprayed the car with bullets. 16-year-old Katerina was shot in the back. She collapsed unconscious on top of her 8-year-old brother, saving him.
I remember that we were driving, and the first thing I saw was my knee that was shot through to the bone. And after that, I think I fainted.
Her mother, Tatiana, was hit by 12 bullets down her legs while she was pleading with the Russians to stop shooting.
We started shouting, "Stop! There are children here, stop!" But they didn't stop and kept shooting. 3 or 4 people were shooting, just as close as you're sitting right now.
Her husband feels guilt for not having left sooner.
Literally insane. Kind of looks like they're trying to pull us in. Oh, yeah. We got so much more stuff about the show in today's show. It definitely looks like they're pulling... It's just that constant battle emotionally and stuff as well. It's like you're a human being, so you see these images and you're like, I need to do something about it. I can't just watch this, but also doing something about it could lead to even greater catastrophic events around the whole world. And there are too many people that think that this is going to only be a proxy war. It's only going to be here. We don't have to worry about it. Maybe we could give them a couple planes, give them a couple nukes, give them some more ammo. They could figure it out. and not think it's going to come to our shores whatsoever, especially as we continue to squeeze the Russian population and the government there.
But Russian media are not showing these images. Instead, Russian TV described the special military operation as a heroic struggle against Nazis. Back in Mariupol, the crater...
Isn't that so crazy that Russians are saying that? It reminds me of a certain group in America that says the same kind of idiotic statement. I hear you, but this U.S., the U.S. is not innocent when it comes to civilian deaths. Oh, 100%. No, I completely agree, Mr. Tubbs. Completely agree. And when you say U.S., you mean United States government. You don't mean you and me.
Next to the hospital gives an idea of the sheer size of the bomb. Dropped in the center of the city.
Oh, yeah, we're very happy to shoot from the drone and to think that those are all just clean kills.
Bodies here are being laid to rest in
Cheers.
mass graves, hearkening back to wars Europe thought were consigned to the past.
Ukraine is also sounding the alarm after Russian forces cut the power to the Chernobyl nuclear disaster site, disrupting cooling and monitoring systems. U.S. officials and the IAEA say there's no immediate...
Blowing up what? Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I completely forgot about that. I don't know why I forgot about that, but yeah.
For more on the situation Richard just mentioned at the Chernobyl nuclear disaster site, let's bring in Council on Strategic Risk Senior Fellow Andrew Weber. He was also former Assistant Secretary of Defense.
All right, talking about nuclear disasters here. What is he talking about?
Risking their own lives to look after the patients there. Many of them are now staying in the hospitals round the clock. They say they're going to keep on going as long as they can. But as long as those supply routes stay open, they can get things in. But of course, we know that there are fears within the U.S. administration that they're going to be attacked. Lindsay?
Yeah, lots of concern about that. Ian Panel, thanks so much. 24 hours after President Biden banned U.S. imports of Russian oil, the Kremlin accused America of unleashing an economic war on Russia. Vladimir Putin is now
100% what we're doing
to try and prevent a total collapse of the economy as more American companies pull out. ABC's James Longman is in Moscow tonight.
Tonight, the Kremlin is accusing the U.S. of an economic war on Russia, one day after President Biden...
I love that it's like an accusation. It's like getting punched in the face and looking right at the person that punched you in the face and saying, hey, you punched me in the face. Oh, are you accusing me of hitting you?
Biden's ban on Russian oil and other energy imports. Russia's now scrambling to prevent economic collapse under a steady crush of Western sanctions. For everyday Russians, the real financial hardships are still to come. But there's now real...
I feel so bad for these Russian everyday people, just crippled over their actions of their government.
Financial help while banning foreign currency purchases. One lawmaker, Andrei Turchak, is so furious he's threatened to nationalize the factories of firms that have stopped business.
Appreciate you laughing at my stupidity.
Is now worth less than 1 cent on the dollar.
That is crazy.
Unprecedented that a...
We got to retire that word, unprecedented. I'm so sick of that word.
Large economy, 150 million people, has been literally walled off from the rest of the global economy within a matter of days.
More than 230 multinational companies,
including McDonald's. God, I gotta get those Egg McMuffins.
Companies have now left or paused some of their operations. Nestle and Heineken now joining Starbucks, Coca-Cola, and Pepsi.
God. I just hate these companies. You know, that conspiracy, or maybe not so much of a conspiracy, the ESG score, your social credit score. It's like, I hate that these companies feel like they need to take some moral stance. Just be profiteering, douchey companies. I hate that I have to pretend like you're an actual moral authority of the day.
McDonald's also temporarily closing over 800 locations, more than 30 years after opening its first restaurant in Moscow.
There it is.
I like it. You like it? Yeah.
I like it. That's good. This the Egg McMuff. Social credit score. Oh my God! Don't go down the rabbit hole of the ESG, man. God, it's like such a. They're like. It's a social credit score, so it's like you might soon not. It's like a conspiracy theory that makes you wonder, because like the truckers and stuff like that, they weren't allowed to pull out funds that were given to them, and the government seized their funds. So it's a way of the government controlling you as a person. So you're not allowed to speak out against the government. You'll have a social credit score. So like you'll have if you give to these foundations, if you support this cause over that cause and stuff like that. It's such a rabbit hole, man. It's just one of those things, like, if it's true, I'm screwed. I have like 500 podcasts out here.
Amazon and Netflix adding to Russia's online isolation. Visa, MasterCard and American Express cards no longer work, and there's now virtually no way to make international payments here. In response to the sanctions, the Kremlin's press secretary warning,
that mustache is dirty.
if you're asking me what Russia...
You too? Oh, no. Yeah, we'll keep... maybe Mr. Tubbs 911 isn't your real name, so try to hide that stuff. But at the same time, who gives a crap? It's like, why would you... Don't live in fear. Have courage. Because it's better to live, standing than on your knees, as they say.
Russia is going to do what's necessary to defend its interests.
Russia not backing down, James.
Look at this guy in his cute little hat. I love your little hat. I said something on Facebook and YouTube. Oh, no. I know. And I got you on here, too, so. That's okay, man. Say what you got to say. Be proud of like what you believe in, but be okay to change your mind, and that's all that you can be. You're a freaking human.
James Longman joins us now. James, any word on when Putin plans?
Also, guys, if you see me answering a question you don't see in the chat, it's because I am live on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, and Rumble, and the YouTubes.
Plans on addressing the Russian people again?
Well, Lindsay, he will speak to Parliament tomorrow, likely with plans.
All right, check this news. One last one, and then we'll get into some of the videos.
That's a step too far for a West.
Oh, the no-fly zone.
Into the war by the
Here we go.
We don't believe additional aircraft is the most effective answer to meeting those needs in the conflict. Now, look, sovereign nations can decide for themselves what they want to do, but this idea, the proposal of transferring these jets to our custody, then transferring to Ukraine, that is something that we are not going to explore right now.
It isn't what Ukraine wants to hear. For all of President Zelensky's pleas, it is clear here at the State Department, in the UK government, in NATO, there has been no shift in position on those big issues of a no-fly zone.
All right. I'm going to watch this because this is just insane. This was like a conspiracy theory. I don't know what you think about Tucker Carlson, but this is like the most insane thing ever. Because I was talking... When we first started going live and watching this whole Ukraine debacle unfold, everyone was like, look up the biolabs, look up the biolabs. And then every time you looked it up online was like, you like him too? All right, I like him too. I like him specifically because he's a different voice on Fox News. He doesn't feel like the same personality and just a different hair color, even though he does look like Justin Trudeau. But this is like this craziest story.
In the meantime, let's review what little we do know about this. We're going to start with a spokesman for the Russian Defense Ministry on Sunday. Now, we would never do this. We've never played anything like this on the show before because, of course, we're Americans and we want to know what's going on. We ask our own officials, the people we elect and whose salaries we pay, because it's our country.
Oh, I can't stand Hannity either. I'll feel you on that, dude. I never liked him. Never got into him. Especially, I used to occasionally watch the show, and he would just start. He has like a tendency to list things in his show, and it's literally the most obnoxious thing to listen to in the whole world. Once he gets on his rant of listing things, I just want to like reach through my television screen.
We don't go to foreign sources because we trust our own sources first. But when it turns out the people who represent us and run our government are lying to us and never apologize for it and doing horrific things in our names, then you have to open your mind a little bit and at least assess what other people are saying. So here was the Russian claim. Watch.
During the course of the special military operation, facts were uncovered of the Kyiv regime mopping up traces of military biological program under development in Ukraine, financed by the U.S. Defense Ministry.
See, I saw that clip too as well when it first came out. And I thought, that's weird. That seems like propaganda or just something out of the ordinary. So I went to do some digging, and I was looking around, and all I could see was things saying mostly false or conspiracy theory or something like that. And then it just kept popping up, and it stayed around longer and longer. And now it's just weird. And I don't understand I don't know what to think of this. And I think that's where I hate how politically driven our media is, where they like are so concerned about their side winning that they won't ever or being told what to say or do, instead of just like getting down to the bottom of it and having an actual conversation and doing actual freaking journalism.
Okay, so that apparently we hadn't seen that until this afternoon. We started poking around. That may have
yeah, exactly. Wuhan. Hey, don't say that.
been the root of the conspiracy theories that the fact checks told us were Russian disinformation. Let's quote it. Military biological programs are under development in Ukraine, financed by the U.S. Defense Ministry. That's the Russian claim.
Which is, if you put that out, you'll get fact-checked immediately.
Separately, a Russian foreign ministry spokesman said the Ukrainians are working on deadly pathogens, including plague and anthrax. Is that true? Now, obviously, we would not take Russia's word for that, ever.
No.
But we don't have to take Russia's word for that. The U.S. Defense Department has a website that contains this media clip about the opening of a biological research facility in Ukraine in 2010. Quote, U.S. Senator Dick Lugar applauded the opening of the interim Central Reference Laboratory in Odessa, Ukraine this week, announcing that it will be instrumental in researching dangerous pathogens used by bioterrorists. The Level 3 biosafety lab will be used to study anthrax, tularemia, and Q fever, as well as other dangerous pathogens.
Whoa, Q. Triggered!
Oh, okay. Then the National Pulse dug up a 2011 report from the U.S. National Academy of Sciences that also explained that the Odessa-based laboratory, quote, is responsible for the identification of especially dangerous biological pathogens. So what we're doing, this is not the first time you've heard this story, we are funding the creation of deadly pathogens so we can study them and prevent people from getting infected with them?
I can't think of any disease or anything that's happened recently that is on the same playing field as that, Tucker. Q's dumb. Oh my God, I know. There's like, it's just like with all conspiracy theories, it's like some parts of it you're like, oh, we could go down this rabbit hole, but then there's some you're just like, okay, this is just getting way out of hand.
Maybe. There are lots of examples.
I'm talking about COVID.
Of this. The U.S. Embassy in Ukraine has a handy webpage explaining that American and Ukrainian scientists have worked on a whole bunch of different experiments like this. Some of the projects include work on African swine fever virus, hemorrhagic fever virus, and various avian respiratory viruses. The interesting thing, the telling thing, is that the U.S. Embassy's website also contains links to fact sheets about America's support for biological research in Ukraine, but all those links are now dead. That's weird. It's our government. We pay for it. Again, they're there in our name, in the name of American citizens, but we can no longer read their webpage? How does that work exactly? They have no right to lie to us.
Oh, but they do all the time. Redacted.
Page is archived, thankfully, and the fact sheets show Defense Department funding to laboratories in Ukraine. So that looks like proof. It's not Russian disinformation. It's totally real. Sorry, USA Today, America's news.
Dude, I know. Putin definitely has something.
Paper. It's real. You can look it up on the internet if you want. In the face of that evidence, the Pentagon is still lying about it. And in fact, they're repeating the same unbelievably stupid and now thoroughly discredited lies the fact checkers have told for weeks now. Here's the spokesman for the Pentagon, John Kirby, today.
And again, literally the entire reason I never did a podcast on the biolabs, because every time I looked it up, it was all it popped was conspiracy. So I thought, I'll wait and see if it pans out, because you always got to wait with these things. You don't want to just jump in and say, oh, it has to be true because they're saying it's not true. So this story is heating up.
The Russian accusations are absurd. They're laughable. And, in the words of my Irish Catholic grandfather, a bunch of malarkey. There's nothing to it. It's classic Russian propaganda, and I wouldn't, if I were you, I wouldn't give it a drop of ink worth paying attention to.
Yeah, but can you explain to us?
It's kind of hard to hold a well thought out statement when you're lying. When you're struggling for your answers.
Has there been any relationship between the?
We are not developing biological or chemical weapons inside Ukraine. It's not happening.
We'll see how long this ages. The difference between the conspiracy and truth. I know, it's 6 months. I know.
If I were you, I wouldn't devote a drop of ink to it. First of all, you didn't get to make that decision, Mr. Bureaucrat. We have a free press in this country. You don't get to decide.
We should change the statement of the difference between a conspiracy theory and truth is 6 months. It should be the difference between a conspiracy theory and truth is, did Alex Jones say it? At this point.
But you'll notice at the end of that, Kirby refuses to answer the question. Has there been a relationship between the U.S. Pentagon and a bioweapons facility in Ukraine? And if so, what is that relationship? That's Russian disinformation. What's the answer? We're not developing WMD in Ukraine right now. Okay, got it. But why are we funding this, and what exactly are we funding?
Return of the Frogs Gang.
We reached out to the State Department separately, and they provided us with this very carefully worded statement. Quote, the U.S. Department of Defense does not own or operate biological laboratories in Ukraine. Not that anyone said they did. Continuing the quote, Under Secretary Nuland was...
I love when they put that. The U.S. Department of Defense does not... So it's not the Department of Defense... I wish you would just say the United States has nothing to do with anything going on in Ukraine that has to do with biological laboratories. Then I would believe the statement. As soon as it's just like they get it, they narrow it down, you're like, it makes you go, interesting. That's a poor choice of words.
Referring to Ukrainian diagnostic and biodefense laboratories during her testimony, which are not biological weapons facilities. What's the difference exactly? Continuing the quote, these institutions counter biological threats through...
Yeah, didn't say the NIH, did they?
Throughout the country.
And where's Dr. Fauci? I don't know. He's probably in Ukraine.
End quote. So that means nothing. You could describe our nuclear stockpile correctly as defensive. Our nuclear weapons are not designed to preemptively kill anybody. They're designed to prevent other people from killing.
He's hiding with the Cuomo brothers, probably. It's going to... Dr. Fauci and the Cuomos. Bunch of Cuomo-sexuals all together.
Us, but they're still nuclear weapons. So why don't you stop lying and telling us what's going on here? And why don't you more specifically tell us why you didn't secure these materials? So yes, we're funding secret biolabs in Ukraine, but they're diagnostic and biodefense laboratories that counter biological threats. Okay, if these are purely defensive labs, why was Tory and Nuland so concerned that Russians would get a hold of the materials from these facilities? Other world powers have come to the obvious conclusion. Again, we hate to do this, but under these circumstances, we asked our own spokespeople. They lied. We're going to the Foreign Ministry of China, a country we despise. Here's what they said today. They're calling on weapons inspectors to take a look at these facilities in Ukraine right away.
Over the past 2 decades, the United States has been blocking the establishment of a verification regime to the Biological Weapons Convention and refused to accept the inspection of biological facilities within and outside its borders.
I feel like this is really rich considering, I don't know, the last year and a half.
The move has further aggravated the concern of the international community. We once again urge the U.S. to provide full clarification of its biomilitarization activities within and outside its borders and accept multilateral verification.
You were thinking the same thing? Good. Great minds think alike, baby.
Oh, they're putting Russian, Chinese propaganda on the screen. Yeah, we did. We also put U.S. government propaganda on the screen. And the difference is we expect to be lied to by foreign governments. We're not globalists. We believe in one country. It's this country, the United States. We do not expect to be lied to by our government, and we won't accept it. But let's get to the substance.
I feel like I'm at the point where I just expect to be lied to, period.
Of what the Chinese government just said. And we never agree with the Chinese government on anything. But in this case, they make a fair point. We now know that dangerous biological agents, whether you call them weapons or not, is completely irrelevant because they can be used as weapons. Is a gun a weapon? Not when you're quail hunting. When you're in a gunfight, it is. It's a ridiculous semantic debate. Dangerous biological agents remain, thanks to the Biden administration, unsecured in a chaotic war zone. At some point, we need to know how that happened. Who made those decisions? We have a right to know. And let's hope someone in Congress, apparently not Marco Rubio, but someone else, will get to the bottom of it. But in the meantime, we pray that somewhere in the United States government, there is an adult who cares enough to get this situation under control immediately.
Yikes. I'm just so sick of like information coming out and it being suppressed immediately. All right, I got this clip queued up, which is just so rich. But I'm going to check on the live stuff first, see if anything breaking.
Temporarily suspend the national gas tax, but that would need to be passed by Congress, a process that's going to take time if it happens, so no immediate...
Suspend the gas tax? I mean, yes.
...are also trying to increase crude supplies, but that too isn't going to happen overnight. Gabe?
Miguel, thank you. Still ahead on Top Story tonight, the FBI charging a dual U.S.-Russian citizen with illegally acting as a Russian agent. How she hid in plain sight and how far her connections here went.
Oh my God, she's married to Eric Swalwell.
Says she ended up smashing.
Okay, let's check on the news.
Because there's countless things that are like that on the...
All right, nothing.
For some reason.
Kelly is asking to get rid of the gas tax. How rich? I know.
You had to practice.
I know, it's so rich. All right, I want to see this news story.
Past the hour, the conflict in Ukraine now 2 weeks old. We continue to see widespread devastation. Take a look at this video. Our partners at Sky News witnessed the most fragile citizens of Ukraine, the elderly, the sick, the very young, making this journey across this makeshift bridge outside of the capital. For more of what it is like on the ground, we're joined by Terrell Jermaine Starr, who is in Western Ukraine. He is the host of Black Diplomats podcast and is a non-resident senior fellow at Eurasia Center at the Atlantic Council. Thank you so much, Terrell, for being with us. How are you doing? How are things changing where you are?
They've been showing the same video for 3 days. Yeah, it certainly feels that way.
I'm much better now than I was during the beginning of the war. Thank you for asking. In regards to how things are developing, now we are into the second week in which the Ukrainian military has been fighting very bravely and actually winning in numbers of casualties versus their soldiers against Russian soldiers. Right now, there's a major humanitarian effort on in process to get as many women and children in particular outside of the country. In addition to my journalism, I have been helping a few families make it to the border. Very challenging, even if you're able to leave.
Does that guy look like he's like in a sauna or something?
Or not. There is, for example, a trip from Kiev to Lviv, which would ordinarily takes 8 hours, takes a day and a half or maybe 2 days because of the dozens of checkpoints that you have to go through, and also looking for places to stay because very few places are available. You have to rely on networks, friendships, families, et cetera, to get through. So it's a very expensive travel process to do so. So right now it's a major humanitarian effort underway.
This, Terrell, is, I mean, it's almost difficult to fathom how widespread of an impact it's having throughout the entire country of Ukraine. This, as, you know, bombs are falling and civilians are dying. You've crisscrossed that country, Terrell. How do you describe what you're seeing, what you're witnessing?
So right now, I can tell you, in the first week, I missed a Russian airstrike by a matter of roughly 200 meters. I have seen territorial defense units literally kill people who are suspected of being Russian saboteurs. I have witnessed
that's crazy.
Hours-long checkpoints, in certain parts of the country. I've also witnessed areas that have been destroyed, civilian areas that have been hit by Russian airstrikes. You also see an overwhelming number of people who have come together, Ukrainian citizens, who are assisting, whether or not that means bringing food to checkpoints for soldiers, whether they be volunteer, whether they be regular Russian, army. You see people walking around with Kalashnikovs in the capital, in the capital city of Kiev, where that would just generally be unheard of. And so in the midst of all of the agony and human turmoil, you see humanity at its finest. So you see a mixture of people coming together, working to ensure that they will survive this Russian military onslaught. But you also see the travails of what it means to be a refugee, an internally displaced person.
Yeah, and you came in contact with a family who was trying to leave Ukraine as they sought cancer treatment for their mom. Tell me about that.
Right. So me and a good friend of mine, Andre, we assisted a family who one of the members, a mother who was, who has a particular form of cancer, and she really needed assistance to get to the Polish border. Through my personal contacts, I was able to help
P.S. My next clip is crazy, so get ready.
Make sure that she had a ride to get
I just want to finish
from
this one.
Kiev to the border. That trip took almost 2 days, required an overnight stay that was provided to us by someone, a family, by someone who knew me on Twitter, who connected me to their sister in Chernobyl. Basically, the trip ordinarily would have taken 1 tank of gas. It required 4 during this trip because of the checkpoints. She was able to successfully make it to Lviv, the western city here in the country, where a bus of where a Lithuanian chartered bus took her and dozens of other Ukrainians across the Polish border and into Lithuania. But that's just one of the many stories that are happening here in Ukraine. So part of this crisis is that you have people who have disabilities, who are unable to move, people who are pregnant, who can't work, who can't move without any other support. And then you have people like Irina, who we assisted, who was a cancer patient, who basically needed very, very critical care. And that was able to happen because people decided to band together in order to make sure that she was able to seek safety and get the medical care that she needed.
That's crazy. That really sucks. All right, check this. Check this clip out. This is Florida Representative Maria Salazar talking about the no-fly zone. Here we go. I feel like this clip sums up every politician and why I don't trust any of them. Here we go.
And do you support a no-fly zone in Ukraine?
I support everything that has to do with punishing Vladimir Putin and helping the Ukraine.
Did you say Vladimir?
Vladimir Putin and helping the Ukrainians.
Wouldn't that mean direct conventional warfare with Russia?
I don't know what it will mean, but freedom is not free.
So you don't know what a no-fly zone will mean. If you have to shoot down Russian planes, I mean.
Of course.
So conventional war with Russia.
Listen, thank you.
Hi.
What? What?
Not free.
So you don't know.
Freedom's not free.
Free.
So you don't know what a no-fly.
Free.
So
free.
So you don't know what a no-fly zone will mean. If you have to shoot down Russian.
No, I don't know what a no-fly zone is.
Planes, I mean.
Of course.
Of course. Shoot down the planes. What's that going to do?
So conventional war with Russia.
Listen, thank you.
Hi.
Listen, thank you. I've had enough of trying to explain what a no-fly zone is, even though I have no idea. And I'm excited to go to war. And I want your sons and daughters to go for me. Thank you. God. These are our people that are in charge if we go to war or not, you know? Oh. Have you seen this whole J.K. Rowling thing? So, J.K. Rowling is back in the news for believing what she believes, that women are women and men are men, and because she's a feminist, old school kind, I guess, she went after Vosh a little bit, which I love. Vosh says, J.K. Rowling, all you had to do was shut the F up, and she could have been almost uncritically beloved for like a century. That's right. Keep your freaking mouth shut, J.K. Rowling. You have no opinion that holds any weight, and we can't separate your art from the artist. We're going to hold you accountable to everything you say no matter what, even if it's totally right, because these people aren't totally fascistic or authoritarianism. They're for freedom. Women, be quieter and start apologizing. Challenge. All right. And then we go up to J.K. Rowling's response. What you and your ilk fail to appreciate is how tediously familiar I find your tactics. I had a violent ex-husband who used to tell me life would be great if I only comply. But you're making the same mistake he did. Women like me can't be bullied out of resistance. J.K. Rowling has bigger cojones than 99% of Republican candidates in today's world, or just any candidate, and men in general. Good for you, J.K. I love the fact that she's standing up for what she believes in, regardless of what it costs her. And I love the fact she's not backing down. She's like, this is what I believe. If you don't believe it, you can suck it. All right. And some idiot that looks like me said, I love this woman. I don't know why he would say that. Okay, here's the bioweapon thing. This is a whole clip. Should be interesting. I wonder how she feels about the trans No, she doesn't think they should be running together. And I don't either. I think if you're a trans athlete, I feel like there should maybe be a different category. You never see it the other way. You always see it one way. So, and especially in contact sports, I think that the fact that that's like even a conversation is insane to me. Well, that good? Yeah, me too.
Can you basically explain to us what type of relationship, if any, there was between the Pentagon and the Ukrainian side on any biological?
And again, if you're trans, be trans, like whatever. But like, doesn't mean that you could just do whatever you want. I have to accept and agree with everything you agree with just because you're a different personality than me. That's silly.
Labs. When was the last cooperation? And what do you have to say about these?
And always the fight is like, if you don't support everything that they stand for, that means people are going to like die or something like, or they're just bullied. They always catastrophize everything. If it's like, if you don't believe me for this, then that means you support the worst atrocities on mankind. You're just like, no, I'm not saying you can't be this. I'm just saying you can't force me to believe or change the way I think because all of a sudden you are this person.
Russian accusations.
The Russian accusations are absurd. They're laughable. And, in the words of my Irish Catholic grandfather,
it's just a bunch of malarkey.
There's nothing to it. It's classic Russian.
I like he's talking to the side of his mouth.
It's classic Russian propaganda.
All right. So I saw this clip today, and it just made me lol. Oh. Kim Kardashian is probably going to trigger a few people with this clip.
I have the best advice for women in business.
I have the best advice for women in business.
Get your fucking ass up and work. It seems like nobody wants to work these days.
That's so true.
You have to surround yourself with people that want to work. Have a good work environment where everyone loves what they do because you have one life. No toxic work environments, and show up and do the work.
This person is dating Pete Davidson. I don't know how this works. Good for her, though. I love the first part.
I have the best advice. For women in business. Get your fucking ass up and work. It seems like nobody wants to work these days.
It seems like nobody wants to work.
That's so true.
That's so true.
She gets around, yeah.
Yeah, get your ass up and work.
Start your whole career with a sex tape like me. God. Oh, God. All right. This is literally why I don't trust 99% of politicians. This is Joe Biden's tweet, June 4th from 2000. It's hard to believe this has to be said, but unlike this president, talking about Trump, I'll do my job and take responsibility. I won't blame others, and I'll never forget that the job isn't about me, it's about you. I've heard nothing but him blaming other people for everything in the world. So... Oh, you're a politician, you're a liar. Okay. I'm just so sick of it. She goes, Kamala Harris. Oh my God, yeah. Kamala Harris is... The fact that we're sending Kamala Harris says a lot. All right. Here's a new game. He didn't write that. Oh, of course he didn't. None of them write their tweets. It's just the fact that
it ran down a road before heading into
essentially
a ranch.
Oh my
Eventually
God.
put in an enclosure there. It's
Get
not
that
clear
cow
how the animal got
in
loose
that
in the first place. Now to Michigan, where the federal trial of 4 men accused of plotting to abduct Governor Gretchen Whitmer is underway.
Interesting.
In opening statements, prosecutors say the men schemed to kidnap and kill her over COVID-19 restrictions. For more on her trial, the trial,
And the FBI
here's
didn't
Pete Williams.
push him to do any of that.
At the height of the COVID pandemic and government restrictions, prosecutors
I'm curious
say
about this
6
story,
men
actually.
upset by those rules plotted to kidnap Governor Gretchen Whitmer of Michigan from her summer home and blow up the bridge
remember
leading
this story,
to it so
Mr.
police
Tubbs?
would have a hard time responding. 4 of those men are now on trial. 2 of them, Adam Fox and Barry Croft, are accused of being the masterminds meeting in the basement of a vacuum cleaner store where Fox worked to discuss the plot. Court documents say the group was closely monitored by 2 undercover FBI agents and at least 5 informants, and that some of them watched the men set off explosives, surveil the governor's summer home, and conduct exercises to practice using weapons. But defense lawyers say all those undercover agents and informants egged the men on, pushing them deeper into the plot. They also contend that the men cannot be found guilty of conspiring with government informants, but a former prosecutor disagrees.
In this case, there are 4 defendants on trial for entering into an agreement to commit a crime. The mere fact that there were government agents that were also pretending to go along doesn't in any way diminish that conspiracy.
What? Oh, God. I hate that. I hate that that's even a thing. That the FBI goes out and encourages it, and they're just like, "Well, you did it," and you're like, "You were egging me on more than the other people." What?
And Pete Williams joins us now from our Washington news.
It just seems like that. Like if you get caught for doing something, and the FBI is like pushing you to do something the entire time, that doesn't seem fair, or like. Because you never know. Maybe some of these people could have like pulled out at the last second. That's what she said.
There's audio, there's video of them going on these training missions to practice shooting their weapons. There's video of them practicing to blow explosives up. Video of them surveilling the governor's summer home.
That's
so there's
weird.
Lots of evidence in this case that the government has gathered.
Certainly.
Exactly, Mr. Tubbs.
So the defense is essentially accusing the FBI of entrapment here. How's the government responding to that?
Essentially, entrapment here.
Well, yes, and that's because there were all these informants and 7 people total, informants and undercover agents. And what the defense says is that they were the ones who pushed these 4 people into doing what they did. But a very strong tool that the government will have in its case is that there were 2 other men originally arrested in this case. They have since pleaded guilty, and the government says they will testify that this was not the government egging the men on, that this was their idea, the idea of the defendants, Gabe.
Pete, thank you. We take you overseas now to London, where a judge has formally dismissed Prince Andrew's sex abuse case. The prince.
What? God, this whole Ghislaine Maxwell and Epstein, people are just like, what's that again? I don't remember anything about that story.
It's agreeing to pay a settlement to his longtime accuser. NBC's Kathy Park is there.
Just weeks after a dramatic announcement on a settlement, Prince Andrew's legal battle against his accuser, Virginia Giuffre, has officially come to an end. A judge formally dismissing the lawsuit Tuesday, which accused Andrew of sexually abusing Giuffre when she was 17. Her lawyer confirming to NBC News that the prince has now paid Giuffre an undisclosed amount to settle the case, saying in a statement, "This is an important step, but it should not be the last step in holding Jeffrey Epstein's enablers and participants to account." Giuffre had long alleged she was forced to have sex with Andrew 3 times back.
Paying a settlement isn't holding people accountable. You just pay, a rich guy just paid her off.
And is now convicted confidant Ghislaine Maxwell.
Keelan woke me up in the morning.
I cannot believe she took the. How did I miss this story? This is why God.
Going to be trafficked to that prince.
How did I
Prince
miss
Andrew
this?
repeatedly denied Giuffre's
Oh my
allegations,
God.
telling the BBC that
She
he
did
had no
kill the
memory
case.
of this now.
Okay, now I'm starting to remember a little bit of this.
Recollection of ever meeting this lady. None whatsoever.
With pressure mounting, the Queen took
How
swift
could you even be in the same
action,
room as this guy?
stripping the 62-year-old of his military and royal titles earlier this year. Buckingham Palace saying in a statement at the time that the prince would be defending this case as a private citizen. Then, just last month, after Prince Andrew's failed attempts to get the suit dismissed, the two parties agreed to settle. Though he didn't admit to any personal wrongdoing, Andrew said in a joint letter to the court that he regretted his association with Epstein. The prince also pledging to make a substantial donation to Giuffre's charity, which helps survivors of sex trafficking. For Giuffre...
Oh, God. That is like so... It's just beyond evil. It's like... it just makes me feel so nasty. It's just so gross. He's a abuser. I'm gonna give a nice donation to support people that I hurt. I mean, people that other people have hurt.
Settlement is another step toward justice.
For
That's
years
not
now,
justice.
Virginia Giuffre has accused Prince Andrew of sexual abuse. He has always denied those allegations. And while he may have avoided this long, drawn-out trial because of the settlement, his reputation has already taken a hit.
Kathy, we thank you.
Oh, your reputation? God, jeez. Ugh. Gross. All right. Let's see what's going on here. Before we get to the next video.
Cryptocurrency is typically done anonymously, and it's even trickier to track down scammers when using
Deny. Here's some money. Exactly.
Most certainly was humbled through this entire experience. There's no way I thought this would have happened to me.
With the rise in popularity of cryptocurrency comes a rise in scams. The FTC reports just last year.
The government is like making such a big deal of crypto. Yeah, sure, there's scams, but that's happens with our normal currency, doesn't it?
Losses of nearly $140 million, with victims on average being out around $10,000.
They just want control. Anything for more control. That's all they care about. They'll use a wartime situation just to push for more control over you and me. Just like the Patriot Act under Bush. Same exact thing.
Tetian.
Just like COVID, 14 days of slow spread. Now we got to grab all this extra power.
Is really hard because you need to do it.
All right, let's watch another clip. What's this? Okay, let's see what this one's about.
My name is Vladimir Zelensky.
Да. Тітка Люся завжди мріяла про Лондон. Вместо того, чтобы служить народу, вы прислуживаете народу. Понеділок. В країні війна, тож кожен день. Лідер фракції тут. Ніяку зброю ми не складемо.
I'm the top manager, CEO of Studio Kvartal. I'm normal, human. And you're running for president? Yes, I'm running.
You ready to be president? I don't know. The people will decide it in the evening.
It's a very funny guy, just fully... Benny Hill.
Benny Hill?
Yes. It's more understandable than Monty Python.
There we have it. Fact will follow fiction.
Yes, there was.
What enabled Zelensky to win the
You're about to say
election was
change?
his savvy use of social media. Ukrainians basically live on Facebook here, and that was his direct channel without going through mainstream media.
We have to do all the steps to finish this horrible war.
But do you think this is a new chapter in relations between Russia and Ukraine?
I think this is the first chapter.
Nowadays, he shows himself as a serious leader that, of course, can make some kind of irony, and that his communication skills are very appropriate.
We are fighting just for our land and for our freedom.
That is Russia. My congratulations.
Thank you.
Guys, thank you.
Все остаются здесь, я сейчас заберу.
Okay. That was the story. Let's see. Oh, we'll watch this one too.
Our first report this evening is from our international correspondent, Orla Gearin, and a warning: her report contains some distressing images.
See if this is any different than what we saw before.
Survivors emerge from the wreckage after...
Okay, let's share a laugh first. And just, I want you to play a game. I want you to tell me what she says.
And with this president, this Joe Biden, this president with justice, environmental justice, economic justice, so much has been accomplished. And
God, this person's running for re-election, P.S. Oh no, trigger alert. Oh, what's that? All right, let's see what this.
After what Ukraine says was a Russian airstrike on a maternity hospital. The local governor says pregnant women are among the wounded. There was supposed to be a ceasefire in place to let civilians flee in safety. Instead, this. Here, the massive crater just outside the building. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky called it an atrocity and said there were children under the wreckage.
They wanted to take the lives of our children, our women, our doctors, who've been fighting for 14 days of war for the lives of every child who came under fire from enemy weapons.
Russia's response: we do not fire on civilian targets. Tell that to those we met fleeing the Russian bombardment of the town of Irpin, just outside the capital, Kyiv. Many had to be carried from here today. They survived the shelling. Now they must survive life cast adrift as a refugee. And a staggering 1 million of Ukraine's children have been uprooted in just 14 days since Russia invaded. The United Nations calls this a dark historical first.
Well, hour after hour, people keep leaving Irpin. The town is being emptied of its residents. And it's not just happening here. There are other cities in Ukraine being bombarded by the Russians where civilians are being driven out. This is just one corner of the fastest growing refugee crisis in Europe since World War II.
It's crazy.
We met Svetlana on the road among the newly homeless. Our house is gone, she says. We've been in the cellar for 14 days with no light, water or heat. But we'll be back for sure. Further down the road, the immense relief of reunions. Friends and neighbours who weren't sure they would ever meet again. Svetlana hugs a friend's child. You are alive, my sunlight, she says. Under the watchful eye of Ukrainian troops, many managed to walk away from Irpin today to relative safety outside.
That's so crazy. That guy's just like bent down in shooting position as people are just normally walking by. It's just weird.
We saw these Ukrainian soldiers at the edge of town. Let's go, he says. We have no time. And time may be running out for Irpin. Russian forces have advanced inside. Here's a little of what's in store if they try to get down the road to the capital. Orla Guerin, BBC News, Irpin.
Landmines.
Let's join our chief international correspondent, Lise Doucette, who's in the capital, Kyiv. And Lise, what on earth are we to make of today, a day like today, when the Russians allow safe passage to some Ukrainian citizens, but then bomb a maternity hospital?
Ukrainians, including...
I know, they do keep showing that same bridge. You got it. It's a good shot.
President Zelensky keep begging the world for help in a war which every day that passes beggars belief. We still don't know if Russia deliberately targeted that hospital. That would be a war crime.
That is a huge story that people are afraid to talk about, because if it is a war crime, then what? Then what's the next move? Because it's crazy.
But it fits the pattern in this war. The United Nations says that 18 hospitals have been targeted so far, along with schools.
And it's like, it is a war crime, but is it on purpose? Nothing's black and white always, even though people wanted to make it out to be, but it's still crazy.
Schools and orphanages
Devastatingly
and
sad.
kindergartens. And in the case of Mariupol, it's not simply that today a maternity hospital was shattered. It is an entire city of suffering. For the past week, they have been without food, without water, without heat, without gas. Today was the 5th straight day where they tried to take advantage of what was supposed to be a humanitarian corridor.
Can we not talk like this?
To get supplies in to get people out. It didn't work. But in a lull of the fighting, because there are so many dead bodies.
The U.S. is not going to get involved. I hope not. Never say never with Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and president. There's a lot of things I thought would never happen that are happening.
Lining the streets, there was a mass burial. 70 people buried today. No ceremony, no families. In this war, now in its 3rd week, there's no dignity for the dead and for the living. There's growing danger, growing devastation, but also growing defiance.
Lise, thank you.
Sad. Really, really sad. Oh, this might be a fun story to watch. The gay bill. I want to hear what this guy has to say, since we're on the topic.
Ukraine invasion is 2 weeks old. The Kremlin marking it by accusing...
I like to go to each of the news organizations on YouTube and see what their top video is of the day.
The United States,
and then we'll
waging economic war.
We'll break
Russia.
it down.
Punishing global sanctions have pushed Putin to sign emergency measures to boost his failing economy. But there's little confidence among American officials that pressuring the Russian president will deter him. To the contrary, U.S. intelligence assesses the more isolated Putin is, the more...
American Scar, what up? Not gonna lie, Russia has been doing a great job at not deliberately causing... Didn't you just watch that last one, though? All the offstage I've seen from Ukrainian soldiers blowing up schools, firing rockets at themselves. So I didn't. That's a good point. I don't know. It's hard to tell what's real and what's fake in today's world. All I know is that there are actual people hurt, and that sucks. You know, I think people that pretend like they know exactly what's happening aren't there. And you're being interpreted based on footage given to you.
Likely he is to unleash.
That's always the problem. That's always the problem with people making a case in their mind with one set of footage without any context or knowing what's reliable, what's not reliable, you know? I know. Exactly. Yeah, we don't. You're like me. We're just like... I find these videos and I'm trying to piece together information to figure out what's real and what's not real as we're finding out together. I'm always worrisome or to think through some of these people that are just like, no, this is what's true and what's not true. And you're like, not everything's black and white, dude.
More indiscriminate bombing. During our conversation is Ian Bremmer. He's the president of the Eurasia Group. Also the author of the forthcoming book, The Power of Crisis. Ian Bremmer, grateful for your time today, but it is a sad day. We are watching...
They're talking about on this thing, fog of war for a reason exactly. They're talking about will Putin acknowledge that he went too far and turn around? He's not going to turn around. It's not. This is going to end in a very horrifying way.
The aftermath of according to the Ukrainians, Russian airstrike on a children's hospital, a maternity ward in Mariupol. This has been one of the things that many people have feared. You have studied Vladimir Putin a long time. That a logical person, 2 weeks in, things aren't going well, might reassess. Instead, the fear is that we will have more indiscriminate attacks on civilian areas.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, pretty much any...
A logical person. I think you could still be logical and do really stupid stuff.
Any scenario we look at shows that Putin is going to end up in a materially worse position, both in terms of his own domestic political environment, certainly in terms of Russia's economy, and perhaps most importantly for Putin, if you look at his European security environment, which is ostensibly the reason he invaded Ukraine to begin with, he's going to be much worse off than he was before he invaded. And that makes it harder to find any way for him to climb down, at least until he can...
Thought experiment, which I love. What if the war ended... Airstrip 9 was always at war with Eurasia. Democracy is always at war with Russia. 1984. Oh my God.
Incredibly make the argument to his people, I've accomplished X, Y, and Z. And right now he's not there. Until Kiev is taken, until Zelensky is removed from office, it is really...
At this point, anything's possible.
Really hard to imagine a climb down from Putin. And I wish the news were better, but right now I don't see it.
And so let's listen to the Undersecretary of State, Victoria Nuland, on the point you make right here. Where, how, is there an off-ramp for Vladimir Putin?
The way this conflict will end is when Putin realizes that this adventure has put his own leadership standing at
adventure? He's just going on a little adventure, murdering people, no big deal.
Risk with his own military, with his own people, and he will have to change course.
Got a bounce. Good to see you. Hey, appreciate you. Have a good night.
Or the Russian people take matters into their own hands.
But is that not the Putin paradox, if you will, in that things are going horribly for him? He is isolated globally from an economic standpoint. He has, as you
sort of. He's also aligning with China.
Noted the opposite of what he wanted. More NATO troops, more U.S. troops, an emboldened Europe standing
China and India
up against him. And now the military campaign is not going as well. Again, a logical person would say maybe it's time to stand down. Vladimir Putin does the opposite.
No, if he was to stand down, he will have hell, fire, and brimstone. I mean, people will come after him still. Yeah, I don't think they're standing down from this. I just don't.
Well, it's interesting because Victoria Nuland's point, if you read it from the Russian perspective, would be...
It's like there's no way the war is going to end and then people are just going to be like, yeah, we forgive you.
You see, what the Americans and the Europeans are doing is they're trying to destroy the Russian economy to bring about regime change. That's what they really want here. And the way the Russians read that is it's economic warfare. So we need to retaliate against NATO. We need to engage in cyber attacks. We need to engage in asymmetric attacks. We need to find ways to hurt their economy. It's not going to be enough for us to just sit on Ukraine. So, I mean, I have to say, I understand that we want to punish the Russians for the unconscionable decision to invade an independent country of 44 million people. But the Russians do see this as acts of warfare, and they are in a position to retaliate.
I want you to listen.
What else do you call it?
Listen here to Vladimir Putin, because
what else do you call this economic warfare? Like, there's no logical person would see that and go, it's just companies being silly.
Every day we try to figure out, is he thinking differently today than he was yesterday? This is an address to the Russian people where he does acknowledge things are not perfect.
I would like to address the mothers, wives, sisters, brides, and girlfriends of our soldiers and officers who are now in battle defending Russia during a special military operation. I understand how you worry about your loved ones.
I can't believe he calls it a special military. It's just a little exercise.
You can be proud of them, just as the whole country is proud of them and worries about them together with you. Let me emphasize that military conscripts do not and will not participate in hostilities. There will be no additional call-ups of reservists from the reserve.
We know, Ian Bremmer, there are conscripts in Ukraine, and there have been hostilities in Ukraine, so we know that Putin lies, frankly. But do you read any significance into the fact that he does feel compelled to address casualties on national television?
Of course. And the fact is, they're not just casualties, but they're casualties in the service of killing brother and sister Slavs in Ukraine. This is not like the war in Grozny and Chechnya. It's not like the war in Afghanistan. I mean, there are a lot of Russians that are going to feel very uncomfortable and don't know what the war's for when it's Russian against Ukrainian. But I have to recognize as well, in the same way that Zelensky has become a hero for the West in the past 2 weeks of fighting, in the same way the Ukrainians are winning the information war around the world, Putin is winning it in Russia. And a majority of Russians...
Yeah, I wonder why. Oh, because when you have a state-controlled media that forces censorship, people are only given one side of the equation, and they can't have all sides. It's almost like you guys, especially on this channel, have been pushing censorship all the last 2 years about misinformation, and we got to stop Joe Rogan because he's such a threat. And then yet you're seeing it what it's like when it plays out firsthand, especially in wartime situations. And yet you won't admit you're an idiot and wrong.
Believe falsely that the Ukrainians have committed acts of genocide against Russians in occupied Donbass. They believe falsely that the Russians are forced into this war because of aggressive actions by the Ukrainians and NATO. And if the Russians take casualties, as they take casualties, as the Russian economy gets crippled, they blame NATO for that. And they're with Putin. And that's a very serious problem for the West to overcome, the fact that Putin has so much control of the information space inside of Russia.
Ian Bremmer, grateful for those important insights, all the evidence.
All right. Good Lord. Okay. I'm so tired of like all these people just like getting on people's backs. Let's watch this guy see what he pays at the pump.
Soaring diesel prices are just the latest speed bump.
I'm gonna have to stop it at 400 because I can't even fill my whole tanks up. And like I got 150-gallon tanks on each side.
Rudy has been a truck driver for nearly 2 decades. He's never seen prices this high. The big question is, how will these prices impact you, the consumer? Independent truckers like Rudy and trucking companies will be passing the higher cost of the fuel to the companies they're contracted for. He drives 600 miles plus per day, and that means...
every run I run, I'm gonna have to pay every time that I take a run.
And just to break even, Rudy is pinching pennies and picking up more hauls.
It's gonna be kind of hard to feed your family if you don't have a lot of loads, because you gotta think about it. I still got bills to pay at home. I still gotta feed my family. And if I'm not making no money in my truck, then I'm done.
Just buy electric. What's the problem? God, I'm so sick of people. I'm sick of that. That's like, they just don't care. What is this clip?
He said, I can't, and hours later, as he was getting off Air Force One, he said, I can't do much about that right now. Can't do much right now, was the exact words from the president. For anyone that might have been confused seeing the 2 statements from the president within a couple of hours, what would be your explanation? Does the president believe there is action that he can take to address gas prices, or does he believe there's not much that can be done?
Well, I would say that the short gaggles when the president is getting off the plane and getting into a car are not always super comprehensive, as I...
Yeah, we know. God. She says it herself.
Plane and getting into a car are not always super comprehensive, as I think many of you have experienced.
And hours later...
Yeah, we know he's not very comprehensive. Biden today in his little meeting, he just relaxed, having a good time, and nothing... This is how I know Biden's not a serious president.
And I think we can get a lot done. I really do. And there's a little thing going on in Europe right now, and I'm not going to be able to stay with you the whole time. But that's not going to in any way diminish the content of what we're discussing here.
Just a little thing going on. God, I just can't stand him as a human being. Here we go. All right. Justin Trudeau, let's check to see what's going on with live news.
The Soviet Union, it felt like a new chapter. Now that era may be over. At the same restaurant today, it was easy to find supporters of President Putin. Everything is going the way it should be, this woman told us, though this man disagrees. Tonight, outside McDonald's,
and he's dead.
The city on edge, while inside, a simple burger and fries is becoming a Last Supper. McDonald's, like many of these Western companies, says it will keep paying its 62,000 Russian employees, but it's not clear when it will reopen. Lester?
What? So they're just going to keep paying their employees indefinitely?
Moscow, thank you. Let's turn now to the impact at home after the U.S. ban on Russian oil. Gas prices are still surging, along with many other items, as the White House blames Russia. There are growing calls to suspend the gas tax. Here's Miguel Almaguer.
As Americans feel the squeeze at gas stations across the country, the national average for a gallon of gas has never climbed faster, spiking another 8 cents overnight and surging 13 cents in California.
Usually I don't even look, and now it kind of blows my mind.
To put the new price for a gallon of gas into perspective, the average price today, a record $4.25, is approaching $2 more than a year ago. And even as soaring crude prices finally dipped Wednesday, there won't be immediate or perhaps any relief at the pump.
It's really just going to slow the increases as opposed to just looking at, outright cuts.
With President Biden blaming rising costs on Putin's price hike, the White House is trying to remind Americans who they say is responsible, believing most are willing to pay more for gas as war intensifies.
What? No, I am not willing.
As 6 Democratic governors call for a suspension of the gas tax, which is 18 cents a gallon, as inflation, which started before the Ukraine conflict, hits a 40-year high. The pain at the pump will trickle down to sticker shock beyond gas stations.
Beyond filling your tank up, your next visit to the grocery store, the hardware store, your next flight are all going to have significantly impacted fuel prices.
With the writing on the wall, many Americans say they'll drive less and cut back on extra expenses. The reality here, the highest prices are still to come. Lester?
All right, Miguel, thank you. In just
Crazy.
60 seconds, our chess moves in the global oil game behind the sudden release of Americans freed by the Venezuelan government. Then the trial of the man accused of...
All right, see what else is going on in the news.
Exit a time.
Gas, I've already talked about gas
Sovereign
100
nations
times.
can decide for themselves what they want to do, but this idea, the proposal of transferring these jets to our custody, then transferring to Ukraine, that is something that we are not going to explore right now.
It isn't what Ukraine wants to hear. For all of President Zelensky's pleas, it is clear here at the State Department, in the UK government, in NATO, there has been no shift in position on those big issues.
Because of the implications that come about. I want to see this video. Ernest Shackleton? Whoa, cool.
Her state of preservation is just absolutely brilliant. There are no wood-consuming marine parasites in the Weddell Sea. So the wood is as fresh as the day the ship went down. You can see her paintwork, you can see the bolts, you can see the ship's name. You know, Endurance curved across her stern, and beneath it the great five-pointed star. I've never, ever seen a wreck anything like as beautiful and as inspiring as this one.
So cool. That's cool. I'm saving that one for last. Let's hear this.
Let's talk about this parental rights and education bill. It's on Governor Ron DeSantis' desk now, and some students, parents, and teachers are simply not happy. So in response...
All right, I did a podcast on this like a month ago, and now everyone's talking about this Don't Say Gay bill, but I already broke it down a month ago, what it seems like when it was first being talked about, and I debunked everything that everyone's pressing up against. But of course, everything has, it comes in circles.
It's on Governor Ron DeSantis' desk now, and some students, parents, and teachers are simply not happy. So in response, they rallied. Thousands of students staging walkouts to protest the legislation that they call the Don't Say Gay bill. And the Trevor Project, along with...
Leftists are so good at reframing what's actually in the bill to make it triggering for their base to lose their minds about. They're very good at that. Of course, it has nothing to do with the Don't Say Gay, but they make it out to be. It's just like abortion. All of a sudden, instead of it being actually about the act of abortion, it's about women's rights. It's like they're very good at framing language that their base gets riled up about. People on the right are not as good at that because they just, read a bill.
With GLAD are standing right behind them. Joining us now, Jack Petos. He's an openly gay student at Flagler Palm Coast High School, and he's also
He's an openly gay student, so you can't say anything negative or talk back or disagree with anything he has to say. Now go ahead.
Activist who organized a statewide school walk out there to protest the bill. Jack, thanks for being with us.
Thanks, Jack.
So, more than 500 students actually walked out with you. Tell me if you think your message was heard.
Yeah, so I organized these statewide actually in order.
And tell me also why you feel like you're an authority to be talked to from the media, or are they just pushing their own agenda and putting out forth an emotional plea? Because you can connect to this emotionally better than you can connect to actually have a logical conversation about what's in this bill.
To send a meaningful message to Governor DeSantis and the Florida GOP to stop policing our education and to stop hurting marginalized communities in the state of Florida.
You're not hurting the marginalized community. That is just a false fabrication. That's just something that's also another emotional push. We can't have a logical conversation about things anymore. Should pre-K to third grade, should they even be talking about sexuality in class? And no, I don't think anybody that young, their brain isn't developed enough to have this conversation, period. Psychologically, it's not there, and they can't comprehend it. They should be learning basic ideas.
Particularly youth in those communities. We were so lucky to have over 25 schools partake in these walkouts in which thousands and thousands of students exercise their First Amendment rights in a peaceful manner.
Beautiful.
At my school in suburban Florida, we had over 500 kids partake, and it was just amazing, the show of support and solidarity in opposition to this push.
So you just brought something up that's very important, and that is your right, your free speech, and your right to do that. You were suspended, though. So what was the reason?
Yeah, because I'm assuming you walked right out of school.
That you were given for your suspension.
Yeah, so my school district at our rally tried to prevent us from giving out pride flags and distributing them. And I resisted, and I told students to not give up their pride flags because they are a symbol of our identity. They're a symbol of acceptance and embrace of our queerness. And I didn't understand that. And I thought it was a violation of, freedom of expression.
You got suspended for what? Just
it is true that last the Supreme Court has decided that students,
I mean, if that's the case, then that's stupid that you got suspended for that. That's
school students don't have the same free speech rights as the rest of us. So this.
Yeah, exactly. Same with those kids that wear those MAGA hats and MAGA, face masks and stuff like that. Those kids aren't treated equally. But you don't see those stories.
So that's an act of civil disobedience for you there. But I do want to ask about the letter you wrote to Governor DeSantis. You asked for a meeting to discuss what you call the extensive impact on kids. First, talk about that. What's the negative impact from your point of view of this bill, not just on young people your age, but on who it's targeted at, right?
Again, is this kid a psychologist? A psychologist? Does he study child development, brain tissue development? No, he's a 17-year-old child, but he's an authoritative figure.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9-year-olds, whatever it is.
And again, they can't have an actual honest conversation, a logical conversation about what's actually in the bill. They have to push an emotional push. That's why you see like the Democrats singing in the hall, singing gay over and over again. It's just like so childish. Everything is so childish. In fact, that's why we bring a child on to explain it for us, because we're adults. We're too stupid to understand. We don't like to have logical understanding of things. I want to have an emotional push too.
And have you heard back from DeSantis? Please.
I think that's a narrative that's being pushed by the Florida GOP that's simply not true, that this only targets K through 3 grades. That is what it says in the bill, but it also provides a provision on what is deemed age appropriate. The vagueness is purposeful in this bill to continue this restriction in later grades. Queer people aren't inherently not age appropriate. Our existence fosters a more inclusive environment and a more inclusive future, hate is taught. This bill will restrict discussion of.
I completely disagree with the hate is taught stuff. I think kids are selfish and they'll do whatever it takes to put themselves first because they're children. They don't have the brain capacity to think about the other person's feelings. That's why it's always like one of the first lessons you learn as a child is to take somebody else's emotions and empathy and their sympathy, like take their feelings to account. That's why you teach a kid that so early on, because they don't first experience it. This is a bill in Florida, Mr. Tubbs.
For our existence, this bill will coerce staff into outing students. So I called on Governor DeSantis to have a meeting with me before he signs this into law to hear a firsthand account.
Bullied, seriously considering suicide. What does this bill have to do with this? God, everything is emotional. We can't have a logical conversation.
Of how this bill will affect my community. This has reached, 14,000 likes on Twitter, and I've heard no response from his administration.
So you've been raising your voice.
I read your comment wrong. That's hilarious.
To politicians regarding this "Don't Say Gay" bill, as you call it. You actually became an activist.
As you call it. No, you guys are calling it too. Everyone on your side of corporate media is calling it this because they don't want to actually just call it for what it is.
Last year, when your school district removed certain books from the library shelves. Tell us what...
Books were for with sexual acts being performed that, somebody in kindergarten can go look at. Yeah, maybe that should be taken out. You're taking away my freedom of speech. And here's always the gotcha the left tries to play. It's like, you're restricting speech in a public institution that you pay for. And maybe that should be just about, things that are a part of a curriculum as opposed to just, whatever you want. We're basically in college, even though we're in first grade right now.
What came of that?
Yeah, so at my school district, they tried to limit the discussion and availability of books covering people of color and queer topics in the library.
Oh my God, Jesus! I can't. Why?
Those were the only books they tried to ban, and they subjected, this.
Leftist TV shows have to bring on a 17-year-old child to push their agenda. They can't have an adult come in and have this conversation, apparently.
This criticism, too. Currently, the books covering people of color topics and systemic racism have been returned to the school libraries, which I'm very thankful for. But the queer literature, has still... This
affects 52% of 5% of people.
Is still banned within the Flagler County School District, which is really representative of the attempt to silence our community nationwide.
So Jack, last night here on ABC.
And again, this isn't silencing communities. Should a pre-kindergarten teacher, even kindergarten, even first grade, even second grade, even third grade teacher, have a conversation about sexuality with your child? If maybe the parents want that to be up to them, and maybe they're like me, and I don't want a teacher teaching in kindergarten teaching my son or daughter about sexuality. I don't want them talking to them. Some freaking stupid kids straight out of college, like myself when I was in education. No, You don't want that.
CBS News Live, our colleague Lindsay Davis spoke with Florida State Representative Joe Harding, and he responded to the backlash that you're helping to lead.
The backlash. Also, people are supporting it too. Let's add that in. Let's be fair and balanced.
Against this controversial bill. Listen to what he had to say.
Controversial bill. Is it controversial, or are you implying it's controversial? I just can't wrap my head around why you would say these things. Oh, because this is what you believe.
Say.
Probably the biggest lie is that we were limiting or killing words.
I did see those kids in Texas.
And that we were also eliminating discussion. Nowhere in the bill are we eliminating discussion. I value our teachers.
Again, this discussion shouldn't happen in kindergarten, period. This isn't an insane thought. The fact that this is even, they're fighting for this is very weird. It's not an anti-gay bill. It's not a don't say gay bill. You could still be gay in kindergarten. It doesn't mean that your child should be having this conversation with some teacher. It just period. You shouldn't be talking about sexuality in these grades anyways, because their brain isn't developed enough to handle this conversation. They should be learning how to share. They should be learning how to sound words out for the first time. Maybe learn what 2 + 2 equals and stuff like that. Let's develop communication skills. We don't need to be like, here's a penis, here's a vagina, and this is what happens. This is what straight sex looks like. We don't need to have this conversation. The fact that it's being pushed and encouraged is freaking weird.
The relationships that they have with our students.
Learning how to wipe
tremendously.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Tubbs in the chat. Learning how to wipe their butts. You said a different word. I used the B word. Wipe their butts, wash their hands, maybe clean their hair, maybe don't punch girls, all kinds of things. I don't know. Or just don't punch people, don't push people down. When you lose in sports, learn how to be okay with losing. These simple things, because their brains aren't developed to have complex conversations, especially when it comes to gender fluidity or whatever they want to push down in these grades.
So that was his answer, Jack. What do you say to him?
Yeah, I don't agree with him. I don't agree with that notion. When you look at the rhetoric surrounding this bill, when you have the governor's press secretary saying anyone who opposes this bill is a groomer and calling them child predators, when you look at the rhetoric.
Because why should it even happen? Is always the question. And why are you so forthright about it? This isn't a conversation about high school kids, college, or even freaking middle school kids. This is about early education.
Rhetoric from the senators supporting this bill, trying to ban, even a book that mentions that a child has 2 moms. This bill, when you look at the language, it targets my community, and I don't agree with that statement that this isn't targeted, because
I don't think it targets your community. I think it targets all sexualities, including straight. I don't think I don't want a kindergarten teacher teaching my kid, if my kid was straight, about straight sex. Period. I don't want them talking about sex. Period. It doesn't need to happen. That can happen at home if it happens. It doesn't need to happen at school. It just doesn't.
Obviously is in the rhetoric and in the language of the bill when it mentions sexual orientation.
But of course, they're making it out to be this is the only thing it's about. Always. It's always disingenuous. It's always emotionally pushed. And it's always heart triggering, and you're affecting me. You're affecting this. You're out to get me. You're out to kill me. You're out to make my life miserable. Instead of okay, maybe if your parents believe that you should be having this conversation, maybe your parents should be teaching you about this in the home as opposed to a teacher, period.
Orientation and gender identity. This is
normalize parents being parents instead of their teachers and their parents. How about we just normalize that?
It isn't about pushing a gay agenda. It's about inclusive.
Thank you, Mr. Tubbs. Yeah, I also look to 17-year-olds when I need an interpretation on legislation or just logical logical thoughts in general. I want their thoughts on everything because I'm so old. I don't know how to read, and I'm so out of touch. I need your very passionate passionate pleas for me to understand how to think through some of the things. Or maybe maybe somebody like this in his generation might go, I'm going to listen to some of the older generations because maybe it might sound good at the time. And as time progresses, I might learn that I changed. Because if I think about who I was when I was 17 years old, 18 years old, 19 years old, 20 years old, mid-20s, like I believe I was very passionate about this, and I was very black and white about things, and just like it's either this or the highway kind of stuff, which is just like this kid. And I did to take my ideas and to push it and put it on legislation like it's the way to be, and there shouldn't be any discussion about it. And to have, if you want to have discussion, is all of a sudden hate speech is insane.
Inclusivity and recognition that there are people out there like me.
Yes, no one's denying that.
Jack, I hope you tell us if you get that meeting with the governor.
And I hope you freaking kill him, roast him, dude. Freaking roast him, dude.
Absolutely, and I hope you do. You represent your community in this point of view.
Yeah, your community in this point of view, exactly. I'm just a straight white guy. I shouldn't be having this conversation. I'm just a cisgendered white guy. I'm not allowed to have a thought in this battle. It's not allowed in this world anymore. It's just wrong.
In a really constructive way, and that's what we need around all these issues.
Florida is known for being anti-gay. No way. I know plenty of gay dudes in Florida that from my high school that went down there. They love Florida, and good for them. Who cares?
Constructive conversation. And we thank you for bringing that to us. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And the next bill that comes down our throats, no pun intended, we want you to come on and give it your opinion, but it has to fit the certain categories. It has to be about queer studies, LGBTQ matters, or straight white male, or maybe brunette, or somebody with a public market, probably Seattle t-shirt, any of those things, and a world map in the back. Whatever you know about and who you are, you can have authority on, and we can't question, because we're just stupid. I'm just a stupid straight white male. What do I know about how to read a bill or understand brain development for children? It's not like that's my job or whatever. It's the shape of the state. Dude, okay. It is. Yeah, it's literally a dong. I mean, what are you going to do? You have it right there. Okay, here's a dose of irony.
Now, Vladimir Putin is undoubtedly a threat to Ukrainians and a threat to people beyond their borders. But even as we are clear-eyed about the challenge he represents, we mustn't despair. Because at its best, democracy is always stronger than authoritarianism.
Oh, isn't that interesting? I agree.
But if we're going to be honest with each other,
I wish you would. You're going to come out and apologize for what you did to that truckers rally and those people's money and their livelihoods and some of their shops and all that kind of stuff? Or the horses trampling people? What are you going to say?
democracy hasn't exactly been at its best.
Oh, because of people like you? And emergency powers being pushed? Or just calling, it's wartime scenario, therefore we got to take your rights away and your freedoms. Yay!
These past few years. Even as we're fighting Putin's invasion, we need to recommit ourselves to the work of strengthening our democracy.
Justin, maybe you need to recommit yourself to a psych ward. Oh, God. He'll send the cavalry. God, seriously. I cannot believe how insane that is. Wait, what did I...
Send you her regards and wants to know. In fact, when I spoke to President Zelensky, I said, Billie Jean King sends you...
Oh, my... Okay. Listen to this from Pelosi. This is so stupid. She was on one today.
In fact, when I spoke to President Zelensky, I said, Billie Jean King sends you her regards and wants to know how she can help.
Yeah, send Billie Jean King. Maybe they can play some tennis together. They can talk about women's rights and feminism and stuff, and that will change the whole scenario. That's what's going on in Ukraine. Nancy Pelosi, it's so silly. Did you know a hospital got shot up today? God. Ugh, so sick of these people. Oh, okay. And here we go. She's getting the delirium tremens. I know. Her coke to vodka ratio is up. I know. She needs to go see her doctor to get that ratio worked out better. Her meds are off. All right. Here's CNN discussing why gas prices are all-time high, and I believe him. Is it all because of OPEC and their greed and oil companies and their greed? Or is it the government not allowing oil companies to produce oil and be proficient and profitable? Or is it both? How dare you have that opinion?
Prices have hit a record high again today, $4.25 per gallon, according to AAA, and that's up by a staggering 60 cents in just 1 week. And while there is a lot of understandable anger and frustration over the pain at the pump, there's also a lot of misinformation going around about who or what is responsible. So
misinformation? Thank God I'm listening to CNN because, well, they've been spot on about everything.
Let's, cut through the clutter. First, it's critical to understand that no one person or entity is in control of the price of gas. It's tethered to the price of oil, which is controlled by a variety of factors.
Really? I had no idea. I thought it was just Joe Biden. I thought it was just OPEC. What?
Including supply from OPEC and non-OPEC countries, demand, trade, the financial markets. Now, let's get to some of the false claims that are circulating, including one that oil production here in the United States is somehow down.
The false claims? Interesting. It's somehow down. I broke down something yesterday that was put out by the government actually showing it is down. But okay, we'll listen to you.
That's not true.
Oh.
The reality is the U.S. oil production is actually up from 2020. And as you can see here, in Trump's first year of office, the U.S. was...
Oh, my gosh. Look at this freaking graph. Oh, my God. Look at this. This is beautiful journalism 101. This is beautiful propaganda 101. Look at Trump's 2019... 12.2, 24 million barrels. 2020 hit. Hashtag COVID. It went down, obviously. And then Joe Biden came along in office, and it went down immediately the year after. More. And then look at the projected number in 2023. Estimated. Anyways, whatever. It's more than Trump. Look at Biden's winning again.
Was producing 9.3 million barrels of
I love the expected
oil per day. Well, now the U.S. is forecasted to produce 12 million barrels per day. And the experts...
Yeah, and this is a forecast. So it hasn't happened. That's what a forecast means. It hasn't happened yet. So take that.
Say that production is on track to hit a new record next year.
Experts are saying, and I trust. Who are these experts? I'm not going to tell you who they are, but economists, experts, everyone's talking, and they're all coming to the same conclusion together. So just trust me. When I say the word expert, that should trigger something in your head that goes, whatever I'm saying is smarter than anything you could ever think or imagine or believe. And you just need to have faith in me in this moment.
Another claim going around is that the United States is too dependent on foreign oil. But in reality, the U.S. actually produces much more oil than it imports.
Oh. Then why is it such a big deal about us getting rid of Russia?
Last year, the U.S. produced more than 11 million barrels of crude oil per day. And while importing around...
These are big numbers, so they should make you feel like Biden's doing a great job. And it's just misinformation. That's just that freaking Fox News. Get him out of here.
Just 6 million barrels per day. For the last couple of years, the United States has been the world's top oil producer, topping...
World's top oil producer, 2020. Who's the president then? I forget.
Saudi Arabia, Russia, Canada, and China. A third claim is that the Keystone Pipeline, that had it been approved...
that was being worked on and potentially as estimated to be finished around this time this year, that day one Biden in office decided to get rid of? Day one, ruining people's jobs and livelihoods? No, please tell me.
It would help lower prices today. The reality here is that...
Oh my God. Look at that. The reality is unlikely. Unlikely. People trust these people.
It's up for debate, but unlikely.
It's up for debate, but unlikely.
The reality here is that's up for debate, but unlikely. The Keystone XL pipeline.
I'm a serious person, and I use words like unlikely and expected and forecasted to push my agenda. And you need to shut your mouth because I'm an expert and you're just a stupid person. Go back to work.
Would have been an extension of a currently operating pipeline. It would have acted as sort of a shortcut, taking oil extracted from the tar sands in Canada all the way to Nebraska. From there...
Exactly, beep. I listened to somebody with a journalism or comms degree talking about dynamic complex systems because, yeah, the CNN chick is rather reading in a few years, seriously. Yeah, and also don't listen to me, but I can. I would say I'm heavily versed in language and the use of well-articulated arguments, and this one hits all the buttons in the right ways.
An existing pipeline would transport the oil to refineries along the Gulf Coast, and this would have moved about 830,000 barrels of oil.
Faster, more efficient, probably better on the environment than sending trucks back and forth or trains and stuff like that. But yeah, keep going.
Oil out of Canada every day. And while it wouldn't have just been U.S.-owned oil, proponents of the pipeline argue.
Right, and then we wouldn't have to go to Iran or Russia or Venezuela. We wouldn't have to go to Russia. We would essentially be supporting a war that we're totally against, right? Hashtag got my Ukrainian flag in the background. Iran, who throws gay people off buildings and is totally a terrorist organization. No big deal there, whatever. Venezuela, who's, starving its own citizens and staying in power and taking all the money. These people are okay. You just don't need to know. It's like our iPhones. I'll keep buying them. I know there's a potential that there's slavery involved, but whatever. I don't want to get into it. It makes me uncomfortable.
You buying more oil from Canada is preferable to, say, Russia.
Right. These people are insane. As Colbert came out and said, I don't care what the cost of the price is. I drive a Tesla. That's right, you poor bastard. Just drive a Tesla and get over yourself. And as she would say, the Keystone Pipeline helping lower gas prices is actually unlikely. And I'm unlikely to ever take you seriously. And don't take my word for it, because I'm an idiot. She doesn't understand how that system elasticity will lower. I know. I'm getting so bored of some of the conversation regarding OPEC and oil, and it's these oil companies. It's their fault. Anytime a politician points a finger at someone else, I always take note, because it's like Biden talking about. I'm not helping. Politicians all talking about we're not propping up inflation. It's these corporate greed. It's the supply chain. I'm like, sure, there's probably some corporate greed. Absolutely, sure. Yeah, supply chain, absolutely. But are you also saying that when you print money like crazy, that doesn't also enhance inflation? That none of your over the arching spending, as Republicans are totally cool with spending like never before, that doesn't also prop up inflation? I'm not an economist, but I'm also not that stupid. Her explanation is fitting to the Carter era. Oh my God, I know. Yeah, Biden's worse than Carter, I feel like. I mean, I wasn't alive under Carter, but wait till the housing market collapses. Not that I am an economist and not that I know anything, but when I see my neighbor's houses going for millions of dollars that are pieces of crap, it makes me wonder. I'm waiting for President Dwayne Mountain Dew. Bring back the dew. Okay. I don't listen to this part. Jesse Waters talking about Kamala Harris. I think he misses the point. I think it's just too too obvious, his
The labs
explanation.
are being threatened, as you heard at the top, babies being blown away, and a global energy and food crisis growing worse by the day. Joe Biden has decided to send Kamala Harris to Europe. Now, everybody in America knows we're not sending our best. Russia knows. Europe knows. Even Kamala Harris herself knows she's in way over her head. Riddled with self-doubt.
I don't know what to think about this Kamala Harris thing, but I'm going to finish. Sorry. I just start this over a little bit. Kamala Harris being sent to stop anything is laughable at its best, but his explanation, I think he misses some things that I'm thinking about when I saw Kamala Harris being sent.
Has decided to send Kamala Harris to Europe. Now, everybody in America knows we're not sending our best.
And let me know what you think in the chat.
Europe knows. Even Kamala Harris herself knows she's in way over her head. Riddled with self-doubt. You could hear the anxiety in her voice when she was there 2 weeks ago. She was asked about Ukraine joining NATO, something that, as we've reported, has been driving a lot of these factors of this war. And here she is kind of feeling around in the dark for the right words.
I respect President Zelensky's desire to be a member of NATO. NATO is a membership. It is about nations coming together as a group, making decisions collectively around, again, principles.
She's a genius.
This is an insult to send Kamala Harris to Europe at this moment in time. She's traveling to Romania and Poland, NATO allies. These countries should be insulted. I would say that's Biden's strategy, but that's assuming he even has a strategy. 2 weeks ago, on the eve of Putin's invasion, Kamala thought the Russians were interested in diplomacy, not war.
We still sincerely hope that there is a diplomatic path out of this moment. And within the context then of the fact that that window is still although it is absolutely narrowing, but within the context of a diplomatic path still being open. I mean, listen, guys, we're talking about the potential for war in Europe. I mean, let's really take a moment to understand the significance of what we're talking about.
No, I think we understand now, but also to be fair, Jesse, she said hope. So, but I'll let you slide on that, bro.
It's been over 70 years.
She does have negotiating skills.
And through those 70 years, as I
Willie
mentioned yesterday, there has been peace and security.
We're talking about war in Europe, yes. And this is what Kamala was talking about just 2 days ago.
But there
as
wasn't
Putin's
peace and
army was
security.
bombing women and children. This was her solution.
We are also announcing funding for, yes, one of my favorite topics, electric school buses. Our
Because I'm 5 years old.
transportation sector has reached a turning point.
Kamala Harris is landing in the middle of a war and an awkward situation over Polish fighter jets, too. Biden's been trying to force the Poles to give MiGs to Ukraine, and the Poles were trying to transfer MiGs to us through Germany and buy fresh jets from us at a discount on the back end. And Biden got caught playing old maid with fighter jets, basically. And because Kamala Harris has so much experience with Air Force asset procurement and NATO force posture, I'm sure she'll finesse this little spat perfectly. Here's how she broke down the war in Ukraine recently.
So Ukraine is a country in Europe. It exists next to another country called Russia. Russia is a bigger country. Russia is a powerful country. Russia decided to invade a smaller country called Ukraine. So basically that's wrong.
Oh. Here's the deal. Kamala Harris, plain and simple, I believe, and maybe I'm wrong, is going to Europe because Joe Biden physically cannot go. Period. I don't think he can handle it. I think it's too much for him. And the reason she's being sent constantly is just another reason to show you who's really in charge here. as Biden says, Hunter is the brightest and smartest person I know. So if that's the brightest and smartest person, Kamala Harris might be the next whatever. There's a diplomatic path. It isn't what the Biden... Yeah, exactly. Ukraine has fallen for the 10th... Yep, and there is no way to intercept the Russian invasion at this point. Yeah, I know. It's over. It's beyond... It's insane. God. The only military option for NATO is to counter invade. I know. That's what scares the crap out of me, dude. All right, and we were just walking towards it. We're talking about war crimes. We're talking about the nuclear facilities constantly. Yeah. All right. Check out. Okay. Here's Biden. You know, a huge war going on right now. People are dying, and Biden has the time to do this.
So the federal, the private sector, and the state governments that come together, those partnerships are in place right now so that we can get it to your desk and get on with business.
Also, a very serious question. He's talking about, giving him a plan, get very serious, serious time, serious calls for serious matters.
I'll do anything I can do to help if you get me to be able to drive a lead car in Indy.
Write that down.
I think I'm kidding.
You think I'm kidding? I'm dead serious. I want to drive that freaking car, and if I don't, I'm going to lose my mind.
You're just getting upset. I'm kidding.
No.
You know.
We know you're not kidding. Please don't hit us.
We've seen you drive a lot of cars in Michigan.
We've seen you drive. You drive cars. I've seen you.
Oh God, I tell you what.
Oh God, I tell you what. When I get behind that wheel, I rip it and grip it, baby.
Driving the pace car, by the way.
Yeah, I know. I don't know, man. I'm ready.
Anyway, I'm just an idiot. I mean, I'm a president. God, oh, we're in good hands. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. I never got it in this story. People living rent-free next to millionaires. I want to see the beginning part of it. I'll check the news real quick, see if anything exciting. Old people talking. News. It's the same. Okay.
Reporters for Vice News travel the world, putting a human face to the world's most important story.
On the water. What do you love? So this is your boat?
This is my boat. The Kindred Spirits.
I grew up on the water.
What do you love about it?
I have freedom, No neighbors, I can be loud.
I could take a poop on the side of my deck.
And it's cheaper than living on land.
Freaking commercials.
Sure.
Howdy.
Hi there.
Hope there isn't enough deep state people rigging to keep the U.S. afloat. Oh my God, I know. If that is a terrifying feeling, I don't know what is. I know. At this point, I kind of feel that way, man. I don't know. I know that I'm glad that the whole cryptocurrency thing, that the information that was coming out today was a whole nothing burger, but you and I will be affected.
So I came here at the beginning of the 21st century, and it's a way to get away from the pressures of onshore life.
Why don't you want to live on shore?
Well, paying the rent to...
Doesn't this guy look... Okay. This guy looks an awful lot like... What? Captain Hook. Shmee. Where's Shmee? Shmee. I don't know how to spell Shmee. Oh my God. Look at this guy. Okay, maybe a little bit. Don't mess with a pirate, dude. Millionaire van life deep. I know.
The landlord is not my bag at the moment. I mean,
I kind of want to hear. Did you see this? I want to see. I can't stand him. But I'm always curious what he has to say about crap sometimes.
Of Russia's plan to liberate Ukrainians by bombing all of their cities. And things don't look like they'll be getting better anytime soon. A third round of peace talks has ended with no resolution. 2 million Ukrainians have now fled the country, and the Russians are reportedly trying to pay Syrians to come fight with them against Ukraine. And I don't know, man, I feel like Syrians must be pretty conflicted about this. You know, because on the one hand, Russia's asking them to fight in another war, but on the other hand, there's finally one European country happy to have Syrians come over, huh? And you know, if you ask me, I think this is a pretty smart strategy from Putin.
He'll live on the boat 2 to 3 years and then never shut up about it. I know.
Probably thinking,
he probably has like a TikTok following.
if he can turn this into a Middle East conflict, then the West will stop caring about it. Meanwhile, in the battle to isolate Russia, McDonald's and Starbucks have become the latest Western corporations to cut ties with Russia, with both announcing that they would temporarily close all locations in the country. Yeah,
Thank
no
God.
Starbucks, no McDonald's. That's a sad life to live. Yeah, no pick-me-up in the morning, no Happy Meals, or as they call them in Russia, meals. I don't think they have a word for happy. You know, drive through and then give the kid the food. Just like, look in meal, Dimitri. There is great toy of wheelbarrow to remind you the purpose of life is work. This is your birthday. This is your birthday. You were born on this day. This is your birthday. Now, as the situation in
That was pretty funny.
gets more dire, the economic fallout of the war is spreading to the rest of the world.
This morning, gas prices soaring to the highest average ever recorded, $4.17 a gallon.
I just filled up right now, and it cost me $50 versus normally it costing me $30.
They are moving the employees to the United States due to the shortage.
Up 10 cents in just one day.
It seems like it.
55 cents since last week, eclipsing the previous record of $4.10 a gallon.
I did see that, like, McDonald's is keeping all their employees paid in Russia despite the store closing. So they're assuming it's going to be a temporary measure. It's just these grand gestures.
Set 14 years ago.
In California, $4 a gallon would be a relief. The average.
I want Trevor Noah to tell me I'm a
$5.28.
stupid serf and I need to
Prices at
just
this
buy
Shell
an electric
station in
vehicle.
Los
I'm waiting
Angeles
for it.
Hitting nearly $7.
Oh my God.
Gas prices shocking drivers at the pump.
It's $100 and it's not even a full tank.
Yikes. Okay, cue a stupid joke. I hope you're ready. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Cue joke.
Yeah. If you thought gas prices were already high, Russia invading Ukraine has only made things worse, which sucks for everybody. I mean, it sucks for parents who need to drive kids to school. It sucks for small businesses who have to spend more money to move things around. It sucks for everyone because the price of gas affects the price of everything. Like, if this keeps up, the next Fast and Furious movie is going to take place on public transportation. It's all about saving gas. And I feel so bad for everyone who gets surprised when they fill up their tank. I mean, think about it. Yesterday you had enough money, and then all of a sudden today you don't. Your salary didn't go up, right? Nothing in your life changed. You just don't have enough money, which, by the way, is weird. Can we agree on this as a concept? It's weird. It's weird that the price of gas changes, but like instantly at the pump. You get what I'm saying? Like, I feel like the change should only affect the gas that's on its way, not the gas that's already there. Like, this gas has been here for a week, so technically that's the $4 gas.
I love that a multimillionaire is trying to like feel like he's like one of us. We have the opportunity to the United States, the giant reserves, and to become a massive fertilizer. They don't want any of that. They just want to build their solar panels.
You know what I mean? Give me the $4 gas. In fact, give me the gas at the bottom of the tank. That's like the $2 shit. It's been there for a while.
They don't think about anything
$5
like
shit's still
that.
coming. The price changed. That price changed. I want the stuff that's here now. And can we spare a moment for this woman who was
He doesn't
surprised
understand
there?
futures market.
Just think
Exactly.
about it. A camera crew comes up to her and they're like, can we film you while you fill up your tank? She was probably like, oh boy, I'm on a secret game show. Oh, he's going to finally propose. And then they're just like, haha, we showed you don't have enough money on the news.
He is. He's the worst.
Have a good day. And you've really got to.
That's kind of why I watch them.
When you think about it, man.
That's on here.
You hear people all the time going like, the price of oil has gone up. So
I watch shows like him, CNN, MSNBC, because this is a different idea, and I want to know what people are thinking. Therefore, before they even like start talking, I'm like, oh, I know exactly where your train of thought is going because I've watched all your shows.
So everything costs more. But they've done a great job of tricking all of us into thinking that prices are these magical things that nobody has control over. Because
no one has done a good job at tricking you to think that way. That's what you have come to the conclusion. I watched Jimmy Dore for the Lefty Thought. Yeah, Jimmy. I know. I love that Jimmy. People are calling Jimmy such a grifter right now. It's like the minute you're on the left and you decide that maybe I'll have some logical ideology, logical thought processes and logical conclusions, all of a sudden, like, you're all of a sudden a grifter. It's so annoying.
Because you understand, as consumers, we understand that we go, the price of oil went up, so we're going to have to pay more. But who made that rule? Right? Oil companies are making windfall profits right now, over $100 billion a year. Why can't they take a hit? Just a tiny hit.
Oh, what is that called when you force a company and force them to sell at a certain price? What is that called? That helps people out, right? In the long run?
Yeah, because when prices go up, the oil companies are there and they just...
Yeah, fixed price. Oh!
Making the money. They're just like, oh, man, I wish there was something we could do. Well, you could...
He's a heretic to the left these days. Are you talking about Jimmy Dore? Yeah, I know. They hate him. It's just like Dave Rubin or Glenn Greenwald. All those same guys, they all put them in the same camp and they all call them grifters because they've left their ideology or some crap. Or they're just, a human and they have different trains of thoughts, or they read something that changed their mind. All of a sudden they have a different opinion the next day. It's all of a sudden you're like a grifter all of a sudden. It's so stupid. That's just like, that's not how life works. It's like me. There are sometimes I'll read something and it goes against like values or things that I believe, and I'm like, maybe I need to change my opinion. All of a sudden, like, if you change your opinion in life, you're automatically a grifter. Like, that's so dumb.
Inside, it was quite some miracle that there were not many more casualties.
Okay, we saw that earlier.
Swindle women out of hundreds of thousands of dollars in cryptocurrency. Tonight, how to fall...
I love that, listening to old people talk about cryptocurrency like they know what the heck they're talking about.
When people arrive in Poland, there's almost this...
Why did South Africa's economy fail? It had nothing to do with the government intervention. How dare you bring up South Africa?
Make a little less profit.
This guy?
No, something else.
Yeah. Force those oil companies.
You could make a little less profit. No, something else. Something else we could do that wouldn't affect us. What would...
Price fixing is terrible. Yeah. It's in his home. Yeah.
Be? And the question is now,
price fixing ruins innovation. It ruins the free market. But people push it like they can't think past to like today. They want their relief now. They're like a drug addict, They're like an addict. They're just like, I need my relief now. I need my relief now. Just make the price cheap. Just make the prices cheaper. Just make them cheaper, as opposed to thinking through like what does fixing prices actually do to the product in the long run, or to the company. Like, why can't I have a job? Oh, because we can't hire you because we can't make more money on this product.
Now, why are gas prices surging the way they are? Well, as you heard, Russia supplies a lot of oil to the rest of the world. And even though America and Europe have passed loads of sanctions against Russia, they've cut off its banks and they've kicked it out of the UN Book Club, they're still paying Russia $500 million every day for oil and gas.
Yes.
Which, I mean, let's be honest.
But caps are so damaging, yeah.
You're sending money to a country.
So damaging. I mean, it's just like...
bar fight, wouldn't it be strange?
It damages everyone. Even if you're not trying to sell a product, if you're like, you can only do this in this amount of time and this time, you're going to do the bare minimum always.
To buy the other guy a bottle of Bud Light so that he can smash you over the head with it. In fact, it's such a weird arrangement that many countries have been talking about boycotting Russian oil. which then created fears of an oil shortage that sent oil prices skyrocketing.
Oh, that's why oil prices skyrocketed. Thanks, Trevor Noah. You're a genius.
Yeah.
This guy's no understanding of econ. No, he doesn't.
And apparently those fears were well.
All these people are talking about, like, I mean, he's just picking up what he's being passed down to. The reason everyone is pushing in the narrative right now is that the reason gas prices have gone up is directly due to the war. As opposed to, like, yes, and like they never want to bring the and in ever. They always just want to point the finger at other people. Always want to say we're doing everything we can. And it's these oil companies. It's this. It's this. Rule 1 for money is representation of a unit of
Founded because today, America did this.
My guy over here.
More consequences from the United States. President Biden announced a ban on all Russian oil, natural gas, and coal imports.
Rule 2 Rule 2 resources are scarce. Exactly.
I'm announcing the United States is targeting the main.
So resources are scarce. So you're like, hey, we'll give you these federal leases for this land. And then the oil companies go out and they're like, well, there's no oil here. And they're like, well, we gave you the lease. And they're like, well, what about this over here? No, you can have this land. And they're like, well, there's no oil here. It's like, well, we gave you the land. We gave you all this land. What's your problem?
Artery of Russia's economy. We're banning all imports of Russian oil and gas and energy.
I take econ classes for fun when I can. I love that, dude. That's awesome.
Have rallied to support their Ukrainian people and made it clear we will not be part of
I take a lot of psychology classes for fun. I know, stupid.
Subsidizing Putin's war. This is a step that we're taking to inflict further pain on Putin, but there will be cost as well here in the United States.
I take psychology classes to manipulate you.
Since Putin began his military buildup on Ukrainian borders, just since then,
I hope that becomes a clip later in life.
The price of the gas at the pump in America went up 75 cents. And with this action, it's going to go up further. I'm going to do everything I can to minimize Putin's price hike here at home.
It's that Putin price hike. God, Putin. Really? I dig psych. Yeah, I love psych.
Yes, you heard the president. Russian oil is now banned from the United States.
Yay,
but don't get it twisted.
we did
America
it.
isn't just going to start riding bikes everywhere, all right? It's got to get that oil from somewhere. And luckily, America produces a lot of its own oil. There's Texas, there's Alaska, there's Rudy Giuliani, but it's still not.
That was weird. Quit dyeing your hair. Just grain gracefully is the word I'm looking for.
Not enough. It's still not enough oil. So America has also been reaching out to countries that it's not exactly on great terms with. You know, like Venezuela and Saudi Arabia, to try and get them to
Great places to vacation.
to pump more oil to get the prices back down. Which you have to admit is a bit of an awkward situation to be in, you know?
Yeah, it's just awkward. It's not like almost exactly the same thing.
Because, yeah, America's basically like, these countries are immoral and we will have nothing to do with them. Chin, 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 chin.
Edward Bernays. Yep, I've read Edward Bernays. Love his stuff. I especially love a lot of like philosophy and stuff. I love existentialism, and I do like a lot of postmodernists and stuff like that. That's why I am happy to engage in a lot of this leftist ideology, because a lot of it stems from postmodernism and words and language and redefinitions and all that stuff. So I love that kind of stuff. It's kind of like why I started this podcast, because I love the way journalists and these politicians try to reframe language to make it fit their ideology, and it kind of tickles my fancy, if you will.
You guys have any gas money, Saudi Arabia? I said that shit to you before I was home. Yeah. Wouldn't it be funny if those countries turned around and flipped it on America, if they were like, America?
Yeah, and then put up the price of oil even higher instead of like America doing it themselves? Exactly.
America, we would love to sell you oil, but we cannot do business with a country that drones civilians in the Middle East. Our conscience will not allow it. No, we're just kidding. We'll take your money. You should have seen your face though. You were so scared, huh? Imagine we don't take your money. But while America is able to go cold turkey on Russian oil, Europe is hooked. They're completely hooked for now. And like completely hooked. The EU gets 40% of its gas and a quarter of its oil from Russia, which is why they couldn't join this boycott even if they wanted to. Yeah, without Russia's energy, Europe wouldn't have enough heat for their homes.
Should have been pushing that nuclear energy, huh? Huh, Trevor? Hunty?
Fuel for their cars, or oil for their weird Christmas blackface celebrations.
Like Justin Trudeau.
Which means that Russia
or Jimmy Kimmel
has a lot of leverage in that relationship, and it turns out that they know it.
As the weight of crippling sanctions falls on Russia, Vladimir Putin is now threatening to cut off Europe's gas supply.
In an address on state television on Monday, Russia's...
I don't blame Russia if they do. And I mean, I would if I was Russia. Why would you be supplying them that stuff?
Deputy Prime Minister...
Are you familiar with Sapir-Whorf's hypothesis? Interesting in academic explanation how language constrains thought. Actually, I haven't dived into that. I am familiar with a little bit of it, but I don't know. I do love the idea of how language constrains thought, because it does. That's why, like, when we're having these conversations about gender fluidity and gender language and what's male, what's female, and stuff like that, that's why you need to define words immediately. And so when you have somebody that is willing to make a word become any definition they want based on how they feel, that is a way to define it, but it makes it almost virtually impossible to have a disagreement with that person because it's fluid. And so you can't argue with someone about a fluid definition if it's fluid. It's like a circle, and it's just like a never-ending circle that you can't get out of. And so when I see people on the right or people just like in the middle or something trying to engage in conversation with people, like when I saw Matt Walsh going on Dr. Phil and was having that conversation, I thought this was almost borderline useless. I understand that you need to have this conversation and need to talk about this, but you're going to be talking in circles constantly, and you're never going to be able to agree on terms or language or thought, and you're never going to reach a conclusion. You can't even reach a disagreement because you don't even know what you're disagreeing about. And so when I watched that, my brain was just like, I didn't know what to like really talk about, because for some, I'm glad you're on the same train level, field as me, man. It's just like, this conversation isn't necessarily a conversation about male and female. It's a conversation about language, and that language is something that we're not going to ever agree on. So it's almost virtually impossible to have this conversation, and therefore it renders the conversation completely useless almost, because you're just at a stalemate, and that's how it's going to be. And people don't understand that. So they continue to engage in this culture and this conversation without realizing that you can't have a conversation. You can't have an argument with someone who has completely different definitions to words you're arguing for, because you're never going to see eye to eye. It's just a never ending process. So it's such a catch-22, because you want to engage in culture. You want to have these conversations, but you can't. It's a biatch. I don't allow my people to cyberbully my language. Yeah. Or cry bully. Yeah. Don't allow it. Force them to come up with definitions, and force them to reconcile their illogical fallacies in their thought process when they're talking through things that they believe. And that'll make them mad, and they'll call you like a hate speech, or they'll call you whatever word they want to use. But it doesn't matter, because you're never going to see eye to eye in the end anyways. It's a separate worlds. Yeah. It's almost like Dr. Seuss. Exactly. Oh, holy crap. It's 9:15. Beep, beep. I appreciate you so much. I appreciate you, everyone, for hanging out with me. It means a lot to me. Again, I'll go live Friday, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern. Come hang out with me. It means so much to me. I love how calm Matt Walsh was. I also loved how calm he was about it. Appreciate you, Beep Beep. I hope you have a great rest of your day. I'll probably have something come out in the day tomorrow. Maybe a couple of silly videos, because I think I'm almost done having serious conversations. I think it's time to just mock. We'll end with a little silly commercial, and then I'll end with the night. Appreciate you. Have a great night. My fellow Americans, it's me, Joe Byron. Make sure to support Derek O'Shea by going to buymeacoffee.com/Derek O'Shea. Easily one of my least favorite YouTubers of all time. And all you have to do is go down here, buy him a coffee, support his show, or even join as a member. $3 a month, that's all it costs. And you could be a big time supporter of his show. He's a good guy, but he's a piece of crap, and I hate him for that. I hope you have a great day, and as always, let's go get ice cream, and I need to get my sniff on.